Hi, I'm Carl Taylor. Welcome to this ongoing series of lighting modifiers where I'm showing you all the differences between the different lighting modifiers for photography and video. Today we're going to be looking at the powerful Para 88 and Para 133. I'm going to be showing you the results they give and comparing them to other modifiers. So the parabolic modifiers are one of the most renowned type of modifiers on the market. There are different brands now that do these modifiers. We're going to be talking a little bit about that later as well. I've got the Broncolor Paras, which are, very famous modifiers in the industry, especially for fashion and beauty. Now they also do bigger parabolics. As a matter of fact, we've got the big 222 over here. We're using it as a video light at the moment, but we're going to be reviewing that in a completely separate video because it's a different kettle of fish. Now, why are parabolic modifiers so special? Well, it comes down to the physics. Basically, a parabolic lighting modifier is a very specific tool that is designed with a very specific shape, a parabola, and the way that it focuses and collimates light is very important to the results that it gives, especially for texture, textiles, fabric, fashion, but also for sculpting of human faces for beauty. So it's become an almost legendary modifier in the world of fashion and beauty photography. I use it for a ton of my work. Let's take a quick look at some of the results that I get using parabolic modifiers. So there you can see the sort of shots that I take using these parabolic modifiers, and hopefully you'll see that they've got a certain bite and a certain sparkle to them, but equally they're very flattering and they have a softness to them as well. And it's kind of a paradox in many ways of how they work, and it's all to do with how that direction of light travels. So let's dive right in and take a look at how they work and how you adjust them, how you set them up. Then we're going to look at some of the accessories for them, the prices for them, competitor brands, and just some other bits and pieces you should really know about them. Let's start off with the Para 88. So the first thing we really need to speak about when we're talking about parabolic modifiers is this very specific parabolic shape. When you look at the light from the front, you have no idea of its depth, and you can see here that it is significantly deep and it has this very specific parabolic shape. Now, if it is not that shape, it is not a parabolic modifier, and you have to be very careful about this because so many brands and so many manufacturers like to say they've got a parabolic umbrella or a para reflector or this, that and the other, but if it's not the true parabolic shape, it means nothing. It will not do what it's meant to do. Now, this particular one is the true parabolic shape, and some of the other brands that we're going to look at also have true parabolic shapes as well. So that's very, very important. There is a focusing rod here which pulls the light in and out of the modifier. Let's look at that from the front. So essentially the light can slide in right into the middle and it can pull right out to the end. And that changes what is illuminated on the inside of the modifier, and it changes the direction and collimation of the light coming out, which is quite important. We're going to come to that as well in a second. One of the key things with using a parabolic modifier is that the light that comes from your light source must be able to emanate out sideways. So we can see here with a protruding lamp like this that the light can escape sideways as well as forward. This is very important because light has to go out sideways as well as forward for a parabolic modifier to work properly. So if you have a flat fronted light, like a speed light for example, not going to really get the best out of a parabolic modifier using one of those. Now to attach lights to the focusing rod, you need one of these adapters which screws onto the focusing rod like so, and then attaches to the light. And the manufacturers usually make these for other brands as well. So for example, I've got this in the Broncolor fitting here, but Broncolor also do these for other brand light mounts and fittings. And I believe some of the other parabolic modifier brands do exactly the same. So this allows me to attach my light directly to the end of the focusing rod. That gives me the provision for the light to go forwards and to come out sideways as well. Let's start with these focusing positions to see why that is important. So if I pull the light in to its internal position, you see we have a very, very bright centrally located reflector. And pretty much what you have there is that light being directed really strongly forwards in a smaller light format, a harder light, and it actually gains you almost a one stop of extra lighting power when it's in that position. That is great if you want a really hard biting light source, but to be honest, most of the time the way we want to use a para modifier, it's not in that position. It's a little bit too aggressive. What we'll find when we're shooting with para modifiers is that we want it somewhere out from the mid position where more of the internal reflection structure is illuminated, and where you start to get these pockets of light in each petal. You've got 24 petals on this design, and if I pull it out to its defocused position and you're at the right subject distance, you should see the ends of the petals, the periphery of the para, being illuminated in separate little blobs. Make sure that you can see that with the exposure you've got there. Probably even darken that down a fraction just to get an idea. So you're seeing the ends of the parabolic modifier being illuminated almost like a giant ring flash, and with some central illumination but reduced in the center. Now this essentially changes what I call the attack angle, or the angle of incidence of the light. So we have light coming in from this way to your subject, this way to your subject, this way, and rather than one large light source like a large softbox of the same size, we now have these 24 individual small hard lights all working together. And that creates a really interesting light. That creates a light with bite, texture, and provides great results on fabrics, fashion, that sort of stuff, but it also results in really good sculpting. The other thing that it does at the same time, and this is the kind of paradox of it, is the fact that it gives you this sculpting effect from lots of little pockets of hard light, but essentially all together, it's a large light source. So you have that benefit of it also being quite flattering like a large soft light source at the same time. And that creates a really nice sculpting on models' faces, where we get the shadows under the jaws and the chin and the neck, but it also fills in the light really, really well for skin tones and creases and wrinkles, that sort of thing. Takes care of those really, really nicely. It just gives such a unique, beautiful illumination. Now, all of the parabolic modifiers, whether it's this 88 or the 133, work in the same way. They have that central focusing rod that allows you to move the light in or pull it out. You're meant to do it from the back really, but just to show you. The advantages that come now is to do with the size of the modifier. So here we've now got a bigger modifier, which then can either be used from slightly further away or could be used closer to your subject to give an even softer light because it's bigger, but still with that three-dimensional sculpting look. And if we go back and look at a couple of examples now, here's some images where you can see what I'm talking about with that sculpting look. they've got a very three-dimensional feel to the images. There's a really beautiful tone of shadow, tone of contrast and bite to the image that is completely different to what you would get with, say, a more sort of standard boring Octobox 150. And the Octobox 150, of course, we've already got a video on that if you want to see the results from that. Now, as mentioned, parabolic reflectors come in even larger sizes. So the 222 that we looked at, the big 2.2 meter earlier, or even the 3 meter, those are used more for full length fashion rather than these ones which are used more for headshots or sort of half length fashion. I use the 133 primarily for sort of half length fashion and beauty shots, and I use the 88 primarily for more headshot beauty shots because it's all to do with the distance. Now, how do you use them? What distance do you set them? Well, we've made a video on the beauty dish before, and I explained the distances on how you would use that, and you kind of use the Para 88 in a similar way. You use it above your model, 45-degree angle down, a short distance away, quite close to your subject, and that gives a really good biting light. Now, let's take a look at some of the other brands. They're recently on the market is Godox have released a series of parabolic modifiers that actually look like they are the true correct parabolic shape. I don't know on the build quality because I've not handled one, but I've heard they're pretty good. Prices by comparison are considerably less than the Broncolor ones. The Broncolor ones I love because they're really high quality build, really durable. I've bashed them around all over Iceland, on location in fashion photography, bashed them around in different fashion shoots, different studios all over the world, and they've stood the test of time. You can, of course, as well, if you don't want to take your own Paras with you, you can rent these things from most rental houses. Now, the Godox ones that I just spoke about are coming in, I think, maybe at about half the price of the Broncolor ones. But I've not used one, I've not handled one, so I can't testify as to what they're like. All I can see from the design is that they do look like they are the true parabolic shape. Let's take a look at some of the accessories as well that are considered part of the Para lineup. I've got two diffusers here, and these are a little bit kind of, you know, people say, oh, you know, should I have the diffusers for the Para? Well, you have to think about this quite logically. And the fact is that you're going for a very specialist type of light with the reflector that the reflection you're getting out of the Para. As soon as you put a heavy diffuser in front of that, you're destroying all of the effect of the parabolic collimating light qualities completely because you're diffusing the light and essentially it's becoming a softbox. So if we attach a strong diffuser like this one, the only benefit this is becoming is that this is now becoming a round softbox for you, because literally all of the effect of the light being either on the periphery or in the center is taken away by that diffusion, and you just end up with a circular softbox. However, they do different levels of diffusion, and there is one that is actually quite useful. This one, let me just find the label for it. This particular diffusion I just showed you is the Diffuso Type 3, which is the strongest diffusion, which essentially will just turn your Para into a softbox. But they also do a much weaker diffusion, and this one here is the Diffuser 2. And there's also a weaker one, a Diffuser 1. Now, when you get down to the Diffuser 2 or the 1, then you can still see through that diffusion material, and you will still gain the benefit of most of that parabolic effect and parabolic lighting, but you can just take the edge off it a little bit. If you just want to soften it down slightly, I'm not going to clip this on all the way now, but you can see how that attaches over there. It's very easy, just a little bit time consuming to put it on over all of the prongs. Once it's over, you can see that this particular Diffuso 2 is quite transparent, so we can still see the effect of the lighting that we would get is almost like adding just a slight softening filter on your camera lens, in that it's just taken the edge off the bite a little bit there. So those particular diffusers can be useful. There are also grids for the Paras if you want to avoid light spill, but again, you will be destroying somewhat the effect of the parabolic lighting by using a grid, because you will be blocking some of the escape angle unless you're using it completely collimated. But when it's completely collimated in the focus position, most of the light will be going forward. You won't be getting a great deal of spill anyway. In a moment, I'm going to show you what the light looks like on the wall, so you can see how that light changes. But first, I get a lot of questions about why have I got it on this particular stand and how would you use it? Well, you can use a parabolic reflector on any type of lighting stand, as long as it's a fairly strong one that can take the weight, you're fine. What I use though is I've created a sort of T-bar system here, where I had my own T-bar made to fit on here. And the reason for that is shooting position. Because when you have a parabolic light on a normal stand, the lighting stand would be coming down here and down here. So it's kind of in your way really for the shooting position, especially if you want to try and just get in front of it or just behind it. So by having my lighting on a T-bar on a larger stand like this, I've got complete freedom here where I can shoot underneath, no problem whatsoever. And it didn't cost me, I just had my local metal workshop make up that T-bar, and then I can use either the 88 or the 133 coming out over above me, raise the height, etc., lower the height, and I've got complete freedom. So that's the reason for having it on one of these larger heavy duty Manfrotto stands. Okay, so you can see at the moment this beautiful circle of soft gradating light here. Central hotspot fades away really smoothly, really beautifully. Now that doesn't really give you the full effect of what a para does, because it's more about the sculpting that it provides on the face and the clothes, but I just want to show you how that circle changes when you change the central focusing rod. So I'm just going to go around the back while you guys look at the patch of light on the wall, and you'll see that change, there you go, in how that light looks on the wall from my defocused soft position into my more concentrated hard position. But you can still see how beautiful that fall off of light is. And essentially what you have with a parabolic reflector is you have a Fresnel lens lighting effect in reverse. So a Fresnel lens we'll be covering in another video in the future, but Fresnel lenses collimate and direct the light forwards really effectively, and you can change the distance between the light source and the lens, and it changes the beam of light. And a parabolic reflector is doing pretty much exactly the same physics, but in reverse, by reflecting the light rather than directing it through a lens. So that just gives you an idea of how that beam of light changes, but that doesn't really tell the full story. Well, it doesn't tell the full story of how the light looks on a subject, which you've seen in some of the examples we've already shown you. The other benefit of Paras is shooting on location or going to a client's office or something to set up a job. These things pack up really easily compared to, say, packing up an Octabox 150 softbox. With this, you've got your central focusing rod, just clips in, comes out like so, and then you can compact that down like that. And then you just have these 4 levers, fold the 4 levers, and then the whole thing pops down. So it's almost as convenient as packing up a lighting umbrella, but obviously a lighting umbrella does not give you the true parabolic shape and give you the same results that you get with this. Setting it up the other way, just as simple, fold down, put your focusing rod in, and then you're ready to go, and then that attaches on your lighting stand and your light fits in on the rod. So very convenient for location work as well. Okay, now let's take a look at how you can compare images. If we take a look at our comparison app on Visual Education, you can see we've got all the different modifiers available for you to compare what they're like and how they work. So sort of the most basic is a bare bulb studio light that we've got here. And then over on the right, you can see we've got a P70 reflector. But we can switch this over, for example, and compare an Octobox 150, which is this kind of main workhorse, and then compare that to a Para 88. And if I take the Para 88 in the soft position, you can immediately see how much more beautiful and flattering the 88 in the soft position is compared to an Octobox 150 or an Octobox 75. You just have that higher, beautiful sculpting of light on the face there compared to the rather dull results that we get with an Octobox 150. If you want to compare that to a different modifier, maybe something with a little bit more bite than the Octobox, we could go to the 110 deep focus. And the 110 has got a lot more bite to it. We've already got a video on the Focus 110 umbrella if you want to check that out. You can see that's got a lot more bite to it, but it still doesn't have that high quality professional look that the Para 88 is giving there in the soft position. And if we zoom in on the eyes, you can see again just the bite, the life in the face and the eyes, the sculpting, and also just look at the definition on, even the eye wrinkles here. If you look at the eye wrinkles on this one here and here, and you look how much more flattering they are on this one here, from the way that light is directing into all those crevices and cracks at the same time to give that result. You can also see light spill is controlled much, much better with the Para 88, because you can see that our background remains darker because less light is bouncing around the studio, because that light is firing forwards, more directional. Now that's it in the defocus soft position. That's when the rod is pulled out furthest away. But we can change the light when we go into the mid position. It makes the light harder. And then into the hardest position, you can see it becomes a very high contrasty biting light. So it means you've got a number of choices, mid position there, soft position, that will change the effect of the light. And if we go to the Para 133 in the hard position, you'll see the 133 in its harder position is less hard than the 88 in its hard position, because it's obviously a bigger light to start with. If we go to the mid position, becomes a lot softer on the 133, and the soft position, you can see how beautifully flattering and soft it becomes. But if we compare it to the soft position on the 88, you probably agree that the 88's got a bit more bite, and that's because it's being used a little bit more close to the model. So it all depends on the model, the face structure, the age of the model, what you're trying to achieve, and different size Paras basically have their own particular niche, if you like, based on the distance you're going to be shooting with them, the type of fabric or material, the textures of the fashion that you might be shooting, and also the actual sculpting you require on the model and the look of the model as well. So the comparison modifier tool on Visual Education can help you make lighting decisions, can help you understand all of the different modifiers and how they work and the results they give. We even have the results showing on full length shots as well. So if I go to full length body shot and full length body shot, you can see the resulting lighting looks that the modifier will provide when compared to another modifier. So if I jump over to, say, a 70 centimeter silver umbrella, there we've got it here, or I go to the Para 88 in the hard position, you can see that harder biting light on the left hand side. So our modifier, lighting modifier comparison app, you can find that on Visual Education. Hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, really helps our channel, and we'll be back with more lighting modifier videos in the future.